There is a moment, fleeting, almost imperceptible, when the noise of the world fades and you are left alone with the echo of your own existence. It is not a moment of triumph or tragedy, but one of stillness, where the weight of your life presses down with unbearable clarity. You look around and realize that the roles you play, the masks you wear, and the stories you tell yourself are not you. They are costumes, scripts, and illusions, and yet you cling to them because without them, who are you? This is the paradox of the human condition. We spend our lives chasing meaning, yet we avoid the very thing that gives it to us, ourselves. We build careers, relationships, and identities, but beneath the surface, there is a gnawing emptiness, a sense that something is missing. We fill our days with distractions, achievements, and noise, but the silence always returns, louder and more insistent. Why? Because life, as Carl Jung once said, truly begins when you discover yourself. But what does that mean? And why is it so terrifying? Consider this. You were born into a world that tells you who you should be. Your parents, your culture, your society, they all have a blueprint for your life. You are handed a script before you can even speak, and you spend decades performing it, believing it is your own. But deep down there is a whisper, a faint but persistent voice that asks, is this all there is? Is this who I am? Most of us silence that voice. We bury it under obligations, expectations, and the relentless pursuit of external validation. But it never goes away. What if the life you are living is not your own? What if the person you think you are is a construct, a collection of borrowed ideas and inherited beliefs? What if the key to a meaningful existence lies not in achieving more, but in uncovering the truth of who you already are? These questions are not abstract musings. They are urgent, vital, and deeply personal. They strike at the heart of what it means to be human. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are. It is not a path of comfort or convenience. It is a descent into the unknown, a confrontation with the shadows you have spent your life avoiding. It requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to let go of everything you thought you knew. But it is also the only path to a life that feels authentic, alive, and deeply your own. So, here is the great question. Are you living your life? Or are you living someone else? Are you following the script written by others? Or are you writing your own story? The answer lies not in what you do, but in who you are. And the journey to discover that truth is the most important one you will ever take. But beware. This is not a journey for the faint of heart. It will challenge everything you believe, expose every illusion, and demand that you face the parts of yourself you have tried to hide. Yet, it is also the only way to truly live. Because until you find yourself, you are merely existing, a ghost in someone else's story. To understand why so many of us live lives that feel disconnected, unfulfilled, or even alien, we must first confront the forces that shape us. Forces that are often invisible, yet omnipresent. These forces are not merely external. They are woven into the fabric of our minds, our cultures, and our very sense of self. They are the reason we cling to identities that do not fit, chase goals that do not fulfill, and remain strangers to ourselves. At the heart of this dilemma lies a profound psychological truth. The human mind is not a blank slate. From the moment we are born, we are immersed in a world of expectations, norms, and narratives. Our families, societies, and cultures imprint upon us a set of values, beliefs, and roles that we internalize without question. These become the foundation of our identity, a foundation built on borrowed materials. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to navigate the world. But here lies the problem. Over time, the mask becomes the face. We forget that it is not who we are. This phenomenon is not accidental. It is a survival mechanism. As social creatures, we are wired to belong, to fit in, to be accepted. The price of this belonging is often the suppression of our true selves. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this as a form of psychological slavery, where individuals trade their authenticity for the comfort of conformity. He warned of the herd mentality, where people lose themselves in the collective, becoming mere echoes of societal expectations. But the problem goes deeper than social conditioning. It is rooted in the very structure of the human psyche. Jung identified the shadow, the part of ourselves that we reject, deny, or hide. The shadow contains everything we deem unacceptable: our fears, our desires, our vulnerabilities. Yet, it also holds the key to our wholeness. By disowning these parts of ourselves, we fragment our identity, creating an inner void that no amount of external success can fill. Philosophically, this struggle reflects a fundamental tension between being and becoming. Jean-Paul Sartre argued that humans are condemned to be free, burdened with the responsibility of creating their own meaning in an indifferent universe. This freedom is both a gift and a curse. It offers the possibility of self-creation, but it also demands that we confront the anxiety of choice, the fear of failure, and the uncertainty of existence. For many, this burden is too heavy to bear. It is easier to outsource our identity to external authorities, religions, ideologies, or societal norms, than to face the terrifying freedom of self-discovery. Societal forces amplify this existential dilemma. Modernity, with its emphasis on productivity, consumption, and instant gratification, encourages us to define ourselves by what we have rather than who we are. We are taught to measure our worth by our achievements, our possessions, and our social status. This externalization of identity creates a vicious cycle. The more we chase external validation, the further we drift from our true selves. The result is a life lived on autopilot, a series of reactions to external stimuli, rather than a conscious expression of inner truth. We become prisoners of our own minds, trapped in a labyrinth of expectations, fears, and illusions. Yet, the way out is not through escape, but through confrontation. To discover ourselves, we must first confront the forces that have shaped us, the societal, psychological, and existential forces that have kept us from knowing who we truly are. But this confrontation is not easy. It requires us to question everything we have been taught, to challenge the narratives we have inherited, and to face the parts of ourselves we have spent a lifetime avoiding. It is a journey into the unknown, a descent into the depths of the psyche. Yet, it is also the only way to reclaim our authenticity, to break free from the invisible chains that bind us, and to begin the process of becoming who we were always meant to be. The consequences of living a life disconnected from your true self are not always obvious, but they are profound. They ripple through every aspect of your existence, shaping your relationships, your decisions, and even your perception of reality. These consequences are not merely personal, they are societal, cultural, and existential. They are the silent architects of the modern human condition, a condition marked by anxiety, emptiness, and a pervasive sense of disconnection. Consider the phenomenon of cognitive dissonance, the psychological tension that arises when our actions contradict our beliefs or values. When we live lives that are not aligned with our true selves, this dissonance becomes a constant undercurrent, a low hum of unease that we cannot quite place. We may achieve success, accumulate wealth, or gain recognition. But these external markers of accomplishment do little to quiet the inner turmoil. Instead, they often amplify it, creating a paradox, where the more we achieve, the emptier we feel. This dissonance is not just a personal struggle, it is a cultural one. Modern society thrives on the illusion of choice, offering us endless options for how to live, what to buy, and who to be. Yet, this abundance of choice often leads to paralysis rather than liberation. Psychologist Barry Schwartz calls this the paradox of choice, where the sheer volume of options overwhelms our ability to make meaningful decisions. The result is a life of superficial engagement, where we skim the surface of existence without ever diving into its depths. Neurologically, this disconnection manifests as a state of chronic stress. When we live out of alignment with our true selves, our brains are constantly in a state of alert, scanning for threats and seeking validation. This perpetual state of hyperarousal takes a toll on our mental and physical health, leading to burnout, depression, and a host of other ailments. Viktor Frankl, in his exploration of existential psychology, argued that the primary cause of such suffering is not the absence of pleasure, but the absence of meaning. When we lose touch with our true selves, we lose touch with the source of meaning in our lives. Culturally, the consequences are equally dire. A society of disconnected individuals is a society of alienation, where relationships are transactional rather than transformative, and where community is replaced by competition. The rise of social media exemplifies this phenomenon. Platforms designed to connect us often have the opposite effect, creating a curated version of reality where we compare our behind-the-scenes lives to everyone else's highlight reels. This constant comparison erodes our sense of self-worth, trapping us in a cycle of envy, insecurity, and self-doubt. Yet perhaps the most insidious consequence of living a life disconnected from our true selves is the erosion of our capacity for authenticity. Your fears and your deepest desires, but awareness alone is not enough. You must also cultivate courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. It is the courage to face the unknown, to embrace uncertainty, and to risk failure. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this well. He spoke of the Übermensch, the individual who creates their own values and lives authentically in a world devoid of inherent meaning. This is not a call to arrogance, but to responsibility. The responsibility to create your own path, even when the way is unclear. One of the most powerful tools in this rebellion is self-compassion. Too often, we are our own harshest critics, berating ourselves for our mistakes and shortcomings. But self-compassion allows us to embrace our imperfections, to see them not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. It is the recognition that you are a work in progress, and that growth is a lifelong journey. Viktor Frankl is not an end point, but a beginning. It is the first step on a journey of self-discovery, a journey that will require courage, honesty, and a willingness to confront the unknown. The question now is, what will you do with this recognition? Will you continue to live a life of quiet desperation, or will you take the first step toward reclaiming your true self? The choice is yours, but know this: the consequences of inaction are far greater than the risks of action. Breaking free from the invisible chains that bind you. It is a rebellion. It is a rebellion. It is a deliberate, often painful, and always courageous decision to confront the forces that have shaped you and to reclaim your authentic self. This rebellion is not against others, but against the illusions you have internalized, the masks you wear, the roles you play, and the stories you tell yourself. It is a revolution of the psyche, a reclaiming of your inner sovereignty. The first step in this rebellion is awareness. You must become a detective of your own mind, questioning every belief, every assumption, and every narrative you have inherited. This is not an easy task. It requires you to step outside of yourself, to observe your thoughts and behaviors with a critical eye. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of integrating the conscious and unconscious parts of the psyche. It is a process of self-examination, where you confront your shadow, your fears and your deepest desires. But awareness alone is not enough. You must also cultivate courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. It is the courage to face the unknown, to embrace uncertainty, and to risk failure. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this well. He spoke of the Übermensch, the individual who creates their own values and lives authentically in a world devoid of inherent meaning. This is not a call to arrogance, but to responsibility. The responsibility to create your own path, even when the way is unclear. One of the most powerful tools in this rebellion is self-compassion. Too often, we are our own harshest critics, berating ourselves for our mistakes and shortcomings. But self-compassion allows us to embrace our imperfections, to see them not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. It is the recognition that you are a work in progress, and that growth is a lifelong journey. Viktor Frankl, in his Exploration of Meaning, emphasized the importance of self-acceptance. He believed that true freedom comes from within, from the ability to choose our attitude in any given circumstance. Another crucial element is solitude. In a world that values constant connectivity, solitude is often seen as a luxury or a weakness. But solitude is essential for self-discovery. It is in the quiet moments, away from the noise and distractions of the world, that you can hear the whisper of your true self. Jean-Paul Sartre argued that we are most authentic when we are alone, free from the influence of others. Solitude allows you to reconnect with your inner voice, to reflect on your experiences, and to gain clarity about who you are and what you want. Yet, breaking free is not just an internal process. It is also a relational one. You must surround yourself with people who support your journey, who challenge you to be your best self, and who accept you for who you truly are. These relationships are not based on convenience or obligation, but on mutual respect and authenticity. They are the antidote to the alienation and disconnection that plague modern society. Finally, breaking free requires action. Awareness, courage, self-compassion, solitude, and supportive relationships are all essential, but they mean nothing without action. You must take concrete steps to align your life with your true self. This may mean making difficult decisions, letting go of relationships or habits that no longer serve you, or pursuing passions that you have long ignored. It is a process of trial and error, of experimentation and discovery. This rebellion is not a one-time event, but a lifelong journey. It is a commitment to living authentically, to embracing the full spectrum of your humanity, and to creating a life that is deeply your own. It is a journey that will challenge you, transform you, and ultimately set you free. Will you join the rebellion? Will you take the first step toward reclaiming your true self, even when the path is uncertain and the risks are great? The choice is yours, but know this: the rewards of authenticity far outweigh the comforts of conformity. At the end of this journey, after the awareness, the courage, the self-compassion, the solitude, and the rebellion, there lies a truth so profound that it redefines everything you thought you knew about life, identity, and existence. This truth is not a destination, but a revelation. You are not who you think you are. This realization is not a dismissal of your individuality or your experiences. Rather, it is an acknowledgement that the self you have been chasing, the identity you have been constructing, is not a fixed entity. It is not a static thing to be discovered, but a dynamic process to be lived. Carl Jung understood this when he spoke of the self, the totality of the psyche, the integration of all its parts. The self is not something you find, it is something you become. This truth is both liberating and unsettling. It means that you are not bound by the roles you have played, the masks you have worn, or the stories you have told yourself. You are not defined by your past, your achievements, or your failures. You are not even defined by your thoughts or emotions, which are fleeting and ever-changing. You are something far greater, far more mysterious, and far more powerful. This realization also reveals the interconnectedness of all things. When you peel back the layers of your identity, you begin to see that the boundaries between self and other are illusory. You're not separate from the world around you. You are a part of it, just as it is a part of you. This is the essence of what Aldous Huxley called the perennial philosophy, the recognition that at the core of all existence lies a fundamental unity. But this unity is not a passive state, it is an active process. It requires you to embrace the paradox of being both an individual and a part of the whole. It demands that you live with intention, authenticity, and compassion, not just for yourself, but for all beings. Viktor Frankl captured this idea when he wrote, "The more one forgets himself by giving himself to a cause to serve or another person to love, the more human he is, and the more he actualizes himself." This ultimate truth also redefines the concept of meaning. Meaning is not something you find outside of yourself. It is something you create from within. It is not a static thing, but a dynamic process that unfolds through your actions, your relationships, and your experiences. Jean-Paul Sartre expressed this when he said, "Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself." Yet, this truth is not without its challenges. It requires you to let go of the need for certainty, for control, for external validation. It asks you to embrace the unknown, to live with ambiguity, and to trust in the process of becoming. It is a call to radical authenticity, to a life lived in alignment with your deepest values and your truest self. And so, the journey of self-discovery does not end with a final revelation. It begins anew with each moment. It is a lifelong process of growth, transformation, and integration. It is a journey that will challenge you, inspire you, and ultimately set you free. As you stand at the edge of this realization, know that you are not alone. You are part of a vast, interconnected web of existence, a tapestry of lives and stories that stretch across time and space. Your journey is unique, but it is also universal. It is a reflection of the human condition, of the eternal quest for meaning, authenticity, and connection. The final question is not one of understanding, but of action. What will you do with this truth? How will you live, knowing that you are both an individual and a part of the whole? How will you create meaning, not just for yourself, but for the world around you? The answers lie not in words, but in the choices you make, the relationships you nurture, and the life you create. The journey is yours to continue. The truth is yours to live. And so, the story ends where it began, with you. Not the you that you thought you were, but the you that you are becoming. The you that is infinite, interconnected, and ever evolving. The you that is, and always has been, enough.